you risk takers and truth seekers to podcast live the battlefield. I'd like to say thank you to all 3 million souls who are supporting this amazing podcast. Without you, this podcast will not exist. So thank you once again. And I have a privilege today to talk to the two amazing humans, two people who took the risk to rid of 9-to-5 job, some type of security, as we all like to have a security, in order to utilize their knowledge, experience to help everybody, including me. I had the privilege to be the guest on their podcast, and I must say I was blown away because I belong to a group of the people who made a fun, ridiculed, joked, being sarcastic about healing, about anxiety, burnouts, mental health. And in contrary, we should embrace alternatives which are going to help today to you. So today, let's go welcome my amazing guests, Natasha Rocha and Jon Binnie. So guys, welcome. And what time is now in Scotland again?
Hello.
It's 9 a.m. Hello, everybody.
Hello, guys. Natasha and Jon, I'm going to ask the questions. They're going to reply. So we're going to cover the topics of the anxieties, burnouts, fears, because Jon last time asked me about fears, but I'd rather expert answer to you guys why we're afraid and why we don't challenging ourselves, why we don't reach results. So Natasha and Jon, same question for both, so let's go make it very easy for our viewers to understand. Natasha, ladies first. Who is Natasha? Why did you start doing what you're doing today? And what obstacles you faced in launching your business?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for having us on this podcast today. It's
You're
great
welcome.
to be here. Thank you. So why do I do what I do today is because I found myself in that space of burnout where my body was kind of like, it had been shouting to me. It's kind of like enough is enough, and bringing that balance of life and business. And I did find myself in burnout, and I started looking at alternative methods to my healing, to my health. And I was quite lucky to have been brought up in a spiritually aware or gifted family.
Yes.
And when the general Western medicine wasn't helping, I went back to those roots, and I did quite a lot of healing within myself, looking at alternatives like Reiki, craniosacral therapy, but also looking at the Akashic records. So that really, really helped me. And the Akashic records is really, I call it the Google of the spiritual world. It's much more than that, but it was really I needed to look into why I was going through what I was going through. Why did I hit burnout? Why am I in this place? Why am I in this country? Because I just moved from Edinburgh, Scotland, being South African, to Canada, to all of a sudden my career went out the window and everything else. And it was like everything that I'd strived to be and to create went out the window. And I was really brought to my knees back into kind of like basics. And even though I ended up in a very different industry, in the oil and gas industry there, something just wasn't hitting right. So I ended up looking internally and dealing with my stress, dealing with my burnout, and grabbed these modalities. And then I met somebody who said, you need to help other people. And I was like, Who am I to help other people? Like, people are going to think I'm mad, I'm crazy, I'm doing all this spiritual stuff. And they said, no, this is a gift, you need to help other people. So very slowly I started helping other people, and once in a while I'd be like, am I crazy, for doing this? And so I felt the fear and did it anyway. I jumped off the cliff. I know there was a point in my life where it's like, okay, this is me. You either take me or you don't. Who I'm aligned with, I'm able to support, and who I'm not aligned with, that's absolutely okay, because not everything is one fit for all, and we need to find what works for us. So the journey still continues. So it's absolutely wonderful. So here I am supporting other people, really looking at conscious wellness is my biggest thing, to empower people to move through those anxieties, move through those fears, move through those limitations that we place on ourselves, that conditioning that we've been given, whether it's intergenerationally by society or by our culture. Yes. So my passion now is to help individuals step into their passion and into their power and live their best possible lives in alignment with who they are.
That's very interesting. We're going to elaborate a little bit later that spirituality. Because I'll say from my personal experience, if you told me this 10 years ago, I'll make a fun of you and everybody. Because, if somebody tried to explain to me, like, you need to positive thinking and you need to do this, you do that, all this boo-boo stuff is like, doesn't work that way, you know what I mean? Because I think we are product of our own actions and our own thoughts. But later about me, Jon, it's your turn now. So, Jon, same question as I asked Natasha. Why did you leave the security of the 9 to 5? And what obstacles did you face in launching your own business, even today?
Fabulous, and thank you for inviting me along. It's exciting to be
You're
here.
welcome.
I'm Jon Binnie. I live in Scotland, and I just left in May my 26-year career in software engineering and artificial intelligence. And I was a senior manager at a global corporate. You'll know the company name. They're globally renowned, into the millions of employees. And I'd been there previously as a senior manager developing artificial intelligence and recruitment for 8 years. And it was really exciting technical and science work. I built teams and products that I thought were never possible. But I also found that as I continued on my journey in my life, and this pattern may resonate with many of us in the modern world, is I was chasing, here's the things, right? A big house, a fancy car. I was chasing a job title. I'd been CTOs in previous companies. I wanted to make a mark in this big global corporate. And I started building an empire. I started building many teams and many products. And I started repeating many patterns. And some of those I found were patterns that were quite destructive to myself. But I didn't know that, right? So I was also working increasingly more hours each week. I found myself, I would try and only work Monday to Friday, but wow, I don't even know how many hours I would squeeze in, at least 12 to 14 hours each day. And I was exhausted, but I didn't really know it. This is up to about 2017. I just continued on that path. And actually I still continued even after I discovered things like, I described myself as going through a spiritual awakening, but more a practical sense. I just started meditating each day, and it took several years for it to really start to bring this different area in my life where it's like, I don't need to be so stressed and so anxious all day. When I start my day with a 10-minute meditation that feels calm and relaxed and like an oasis of calm. And so, just 2 years ago, I realized that all I was doing at weekends was spending time sleeping and recovering. I'd managed to give up things like alcohol, which did give me more energy and give me more focus. But I also saw there's a lot of colleagues around me that were really struggling. People that worked for me couldn't keep up with me. And initially I thought it was them. And then I realized it was me, that I'd become this very hardened,
That's interesting,
stressed, stress resilient person. And I saw people not only go off sick, short term, long term. I very sadly also lost a colleague who died. And it was shocking to me to see the effect that, stress and anxiety, maybe just decades ago, we wouldn't even use those terms as being particularly helpful. And now I see burnout has just been building up in so many of us and our cultures as well for decades. And that it's a real threat. Like it's a real enemy of your not just your happiness and your health, but also your life. For me, it affected everything in my life, my health, my attention span, my ability to make sound judgment in business and in life. And I just found myself trying to escape in lots of different ways and not really understanding whether there could be a different world for me.
Can I ask you both some question? I'm very glad that you said something which trigger of particularly the word, I think that actually trigger everything in everybody's life, particularly my one. And I want to make a question around this word. You said, Jon, you were chasing better car, bigger house, unicorns, mermaids, whatever it is, like we chased everything materialistically. When we chase something, obviously, this is a question for both. It's like a couple layers of the question. We were somehow programmed to do this, because either our parents told us, or society, or the social media somehow is there. Maybe it's written somewhere in some, I don't know, invisible cloud, sort of our destiny. But by chasing, you said something very, very powerful, very truthful. We're fighting invisible enemy. And my fear, it's always this, when you see the threat, danger, you can, sort of address, you can move yourself, remove yourself, you don't want to be the part of this one. But stress, burnout, fear, anxieties, it's our invisible enemies. My questions for both of you, it is, why we are, and who made the program for us, particularly for you, Jon, because you were the CTO, how come we have been programmed to chase this materialistic world without nobody telling us, by doing so, we're going to attract invisible enemy, which eventually is going to hit us hard. Statistically speaking, they say that most of the heart attacks in the world, across the world, it's happening every Monday between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. because anxiety builds on Sunday afternoon, but Monday morning while you're driving to work, heart attacks. So guys, 2 questions. Who programmed our mind? How we can unprogram our mind, maybe through your work. And the second question is like, why we don't addressing these issues, anxieties, burnouts, why we don't talk about this invisible enemy of society. Natasha, maybe first, you, Jon, first?
I'll let you go, Jon.
Thank you. It's a fantastic question.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jon.
Even the question itself, if I'd asked that years ago, maybe we would have had this podcast years ago. I didn't, like, frankly speaking, I didn't really know, but it's because I feel that I tightly coupled my self-worth with things outside of me. And so I would love myself more and this is what I thought, if I earned more money. Money is just like a number, right? So the number always went up.
Yes.
And then it was same for job titles. I would look at other people above me in the company and say, I could do better than them.
Yes.
And I'd be very competitive, and I'd see that, they had a nice car and you'd almost like with rose tinted glasses, I would say, project onto them and say, look how dreamy their life is, how happy they are. And I'd want to become that. And this also like this kind of very root, kind of ugly aspect of this behavior is this tightly coupling of your self-love and self-worth with productivity. So saying, if I complete my extremely excessively long to-do list today, I could finish today and say, Jon, I feel happy, I value myself, well done, Jon. And yes, there's other influences. My father followed the same pattern. My parents also, they wouldn't ask me, for instance, do you enjoy your job? Does it fulfill your dreams? Do you know what your dreams are? It was more like, is it paying well? Are you progressing well in the company? Is your career progressing well?
Natasha?
Absolutely. And I echo what Jon said, but also there is a theme to life at the moment. And I found that very much in the corporate space, and I still find it now, is that it's a badge to wear. Look how many hours I hit it. Like, I smashed it, coming in the morning and going, oh my goodness, look at what I have achieved. And it again is something kind of like outside of us that validates us. But it is that, like, I'm working on 3 hours of sleep. This is awesome. And it's like, perhaps if you had 8 or 6 hours of sleep, would probably be more creative, and we would be receiving in this flow of energy, because what happens is we're all running on empty, and it's a badge to wear. kind of a thing. And I think that's where we need to change that, in the sense of, but how is your work-life balance? And I understand that when we give in one, we have to give in the other. But I think that unnamed enemy is that we got into this stage where it's like, look what I've achieved. And in order to achieve that, we're on this hamster wheel of that validation and self-worth and self-value, because we do measure those things in those material aspects. But the thing to realize as well is one can still be spiritual and still have those things and bring that into balance. It doesn't mean that we need to give up one for the other, but it's the way in which we attain it and which we achieve it is a little bit different.
That's
in that
interesting.
sense.
Yeah. I just want to relate to something what's happened to me. I will say maybe 14 years ago, GFC was happening, and, my son was suddenly diagnosed with epilepsy at age 10. My marriage was crashing, we lost the home. Everything was just going down the hill. And I remember I was working, and one day I couldn't walk literally a few steps, and I know what's happened to myself. What's wrong with me? And then I touched my heart, and suddenly I was in an ambulance. Anyway, in the hospital, doctor says to me, it's nothing. I said, what do you mean it's nothing? I'm just going to die, heart attack. He says to me, nah, it's a panic attack. And I was like, who, me? Do you know who I am? I'm the ex-soldier, I'm this and that. My alter ego is fighting now. He says to me, maybe you burn out, maybe you're holding things, you should look for alternatives. And alternatives was that I need to find somebody who's going to bring that some positivity in me and heal me, and everything else. And what I did, actually, I mocked everybody, till I didn't happen to me 3 months later again, even worse. And same doctor says to me, there is no medication for this. You need to start learning to love yourself. Natasha, let's go talk about healing. So Jon said this very well. He's give up of drinking, right? No smoking. I give up of smoking. The thing is, he stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. He's meditating. I'm doing something different in the morning. But I want to ask you a question. What is the healing? And is it possible? And how do you actually help other people to heal themselves from being the narcissistic pricks like myself, believing that the world owes us everything? I was that guy. Trust me. If I saw you, I would make fun of you. Yeah. But eventually, I found somebody who is like mother to me today. So, Natasha, healing. What is the healing? How the healing help people? And Jon, then I'm gonna go towards you with some different questions. So let's go for Natasha. Healing.
So the healing aspect of things is when people are ready, they'll find the right person.
I like it. I like it. That's a good one. Yeah. Guys, when you're ready, that's it.
You will find it.
Yes.
And a lot of the times you find it when Western medicine's not helping, when nothing's coming in, when the diagnostics is you're fine, where the diagnostics is you can't see it, then you know it's a mental, emotional aspect. And a lot of the times there's a lot of fear because what we have to do is look inside. It's not out there, it's in here. And that takes the biggest bravery to actually look inside, because then you're faced naked with a mirror looking at yourself going, okay, I am the common denominator here. What am I doing? What is the conditioning? What are the limiting beliefs? What is, the belief system that is there? And when we start looking and unpacking and doing that healing, again, like that invisible enemy, we're not allowed to be vulnerable. We can't look at this. We need to be strong to face the world. We need to think with our heads. We can't go into our hearts, because we're very, very, for people to go out in battle, for people to go and face the enemy, there is a part of ourselves that we need to switch off in order to be able to face these things.
Yes.
And don't forget that our ancestors, our parents, have had to switch off that aspect of ourselves in order to think and to live and to survive. So a lot of the times is, and I used to say this, and I mean, I grew up in the sense of the business doesn't have a heart. You just need to go there, you need to smash it, you need to show up, you need to do the best that you can. There's got nothing to do with feeling. You're a woman, you can't cry, you can't do this, you can't, all the rest of that. But we start looking at business as our babies. In the same time, in the same sense, we're like, it's our baby, we need to nurture it, we need to care for it, you know. So the healing aspect is when we start looking at ourselves and going, okay, I've explored everything else. It's not working. I'm ready to step into that other aspect of what is wrong. And what happens is, as we experience those traumas, we shove them, put them in a little box and it affects our body because we put it somewhere in our bodies that later on start to surface and go, yes. Hey, it's like a little pebble in your shoe. In the beginning, it doesn't hurt, but after a while, we need to attend to it. So these things surface for us later on in life, and usually it's the physical ailment that shows up because our bodies are so resilient. I'll sleep next week. I'll go on holiday next month. I'll reset, you know, just 2 more months. I just need to see the end of this project before I can relax. But then there's the next one. So we never allow it. And it gets to a stage where our body's like, nope, down, off you go, into the hospital. You're going to sit there. You're going to sit there and think about, you're going to have a time out and think about what is life.
Can I ask,
what is it that we want to do
now? So maybe Jon, now to go to the Jon. Jon, we spoke about this burnout, so I want to just reconnect to what Natasha said. You know, I mean, let's go do another project, let's go do this, let's go do that. And suddenly we found ourselves in stretches. I found myself because I wanted to do more for my family. I wanted my kid to be this, and I want to save my home, save my marriage. And things were just slipping out of my fingers. Eventually, I ended up in a hospital 2 times. And then I said to myself, obviously I need to let everything go and start rebuilding myself, which was difficult, hardest process. But Jon, we talk about burnout, anxiety, and fears. So what's the manifestation, physical manifestation people don't see or they don't want to see it? When, as Natasha says, another project, I'm going to work on Sunday, just a wife and kids, just wait on Sunday, just going to quickly go in the office, duck in the office, I'll be back in a couple hours. And then things happen. Jon, your experience, your professional experience.
So my experience was like that Natasha described, the pebble in the shoe. Like I know from running a half marathon's about as far as I run. But you know what? It'll stop you eventually, right? It'll become so sore. And what I felt was, I felt physically like exhausted. Like I could caffeinate myself through a day. I'd run in the morning and I could drink a lot of coffee and I could keep going. And I would just go back-to-back meetings. I'd find myself, especially during our kind of lockdown years, I would struggle to even go to the toilet. Like I would literally I had to start telling people at the start of meetings, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Like and I would hold it in for hours. And I would get to lunchtime and I'd just, skimp on lunches. And then by the end of the day, all those things you describe, like as you start to bleed into, well, maybe I should be having a life outside of work. Yeah. It would always come second. My wife and 2 kids would always come last. And physically, my body I didn't know this, I had really shallow breath all the time. Even my running started to get worse because I was like always in this kind of fight or flight, like, almost like a panic mode the whole time, but thinking, hey, I'm actually active and energized. And like, you're not, like you're panicking, Jon. And at the weekends, I would just sleep. Like as soon as I stopped, I literally fall asleep. I'm lucky, I'm blessed with being able to sleep. But during the day, it would just, I couldn't do much with my family at the weekends. And some of the other symptoms I had was, I knew that if if I kept going for about 2 or 3 weeks more without making a change, I would just have to phone in sick, and I wouldn't know how long it would be for, because I'd seen it happen with others around me. I'd seen that they ended up, in being off for months with conditions of, we would describe them as depression, burnout, and worse, as I mentioned, losing a colleague. And that terrified me. I thought, there'll be a kind of flip switch for me, but I know I'm so close to that.
And what was the moment for you that you discovered spirituality? So obviously in that part, as you described right now, and Natasha said, we are all used to be, like 3 of us used to work in corporations. Mm-hmm. For me, it was the lucky ones because I was being dumped in. Because GFC said, goodbye, we can't employ anymore. I'm like, okay, so I need to start my own business. But when was the moment when you said to yourself, okay, enough, I need to discover alternatives in life. I need to turn myself towards spirituality, because there's a lot of gurus who talk about spirituality, but guys, I highly recommend to talk to Natasha and Jon, because they are professionals, and that's hence why they're today on this podcast. So when did you discover spirituality, on what way, and how did you start applying this in your daily life, or maybe to your clients?
So for me, as I said, I grew up in it, but it was one of those things that was hidden. You don't talk about this. People are going to think you're weird. People are going to judge you. People are going to put you in an institution, right? They're like, you are gone with the fairies, like,
yes,
True. And
yeah.
that was a big struggle for me. When I shifted and I thought, okay, I'm going to start like helping people, but I think there needs to be some sort of a logic. And I'm like, how can I associate with these people that are like, oh, rainbow, fairy, unicorn, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, people are like, how, I can't, I like the balance of logic. First we need, and that's one thing in spirituality, I always look like, okay, what is the physical reason for it? And then I'll bring look at the spirituality on top of that. So that was very hard for me. And the other thing that was very hard for me when I did switch, because for me, it was going back to my roots. It wasn't something new. Okay. Right. So I grew up in a family of healers, of people that feel things, but it was always like you put that on one burner and you hide that and you become somebody that people can digest in society. Yes. So that was the biggest switch. And then the other switch was, if we want and even in spirituality, we need to action our way forward. But I'd be like, okay, I've been meditating for 21 days. Here's the action. Where's the reaction? Where's the result? I need it now. I've ticked off. Yeah. I was still very much in that. I've hit my to-do list. So but I started to realize that then it's a collaboration. It's a really working with the energies. It's a really looking at things from a different perspective. It's really at looking at these opportunities, allowing them to arise, to be agile. Yes. So it's like, yes, it is about putting it out there, but then allowing the opportunities to come and acting on them as well. So at that point, it was the point where I was like, to actually think about going back into a corporate job for me after doing this bit of healing. And I was very lucky as a woman at that time. I was married. I was able to have that support of somebody else. Yes. Bringing in an income, even though our incomes were equal, we were down one income, but it provided me that opportunity to do my own healing. Yeah. And every time I thought about going into a corporate sense, as in being employed, I had a visceral kind of like, ooh, like it almost kind of like, I was just like, I can't do it. And I was like, but then how can I support people in it? So I can still do corporate, but from another perspective, my way.
This is what the audience doesn't know, but I know. So I'm going to share something very interesting, guys. For those who don't know, Natasha, she's a real example. No role model, but real model, Jon and Natasha. And Natasha sacrificed a lot in life. But today she's advising one of the largest governments on the planet Earth, along with Jon. So Jon, for you, spirituality, what is spirituality for you, and how did you discover that part? Obviously the burnouts, the stress, the anxieties, everybody around you was suffering, but you were the suffering most. And you knew it is coming to the end, if you don't change something.
So when I just turned 40, and it was 2017, and a friend said, hey, why don't you come along to a meditation class in a local village hall? And I was like, oh, I've never really done that. But I played a lot of music with my friend. And it's like, oh, I'll go along and support my friend who's running it. Little did I know. So I went in.
Yeah.
And we were meditating for, like, I'd never done it, so I didn't know what was short or long. We were like about an hour. And we were doing like some yoga. And in the experience, so bearing in mind, this is Jon, who's like a senior manager at a global corporate who, you know, just does some fun stuff, either music or other stuff, when he manages to get out of meetings. And so there I was, sat there in this meditation, and I started seeing like all these incredible things, like with my eyes closed. That it was like I was seeing the formations of planets and stars and the energies that flow between them. And so I just remember saying afterwards, I was telling everyone, it was a small class of 8 people. And I was saying, did you guys like, what happens when you meditate? I think it's amazing, right? And they're like, oh, you know, we had some experiences. It was pretty fun. And so I said to the teacher, can I just do it?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Can I do it every day? And she said, yeah, you just like what you just did, do that every day. And I said, it's free, right? Like I can just do it. Can I do it as long as I want? Yes. Since that day, I've not missed a day of meditation. And in the first few weeks, I just moved house, and I'd started at a Zumba dance studio, which was a converted garage, which I don't do Zumba dance, but I do a lot of music. And so I started to realize that I was meditating in the morning after my morning run for about 10 minutes, and then I'd do music. And it's like, oh, I could ask for like messages in my meditation and then put them into music. And I started that. And then after doing that for 900, so I started doing songs every day, asking like the highest aspects of myself for messages. It started with the odd word, and then sentences, and then just whole song lyrics. And now I'm not going to get the number right, but since then I've released 156 albums and 2,500 songs or plus. And on that journey,
that's a big achievement.
Thank you.
No, seriously, you should be proud of this. That's a great achievement, man.
Thank you. And what I didn't know, like at many points, you know, I was literally, you know, doing that before I'd go into like a vice president or a director presentation that day, and I was like, Jon, like my anxiety was like, Jon, but you've got to do it. You've got to follow your dream for at least 10 to 30 minutes every day. Like whatever it is that you think you're doing, do it. And so the more I did that, the more it also started to bleed into my work. Like I started to show up as this guy that did some music. I do music at fun events and all kinds of things. The tipping point for me was that meditation practice got me interested in things like connected with a friend, like Natasha said, you know, I found a friend, and she said, oh, I could do like a short, if you're stressed out and anxious, I could do a short energy healing for you. Now bearing in mind, she lives in Dallas or somewhere nearby, and I'm in Scotland. And I was sleeping on my son's floor because he'd had night terrors for years, and I was exhausted from my work, and I was sleeping in his room, and I had about 3 or 4 hours sleep. And you know what? I woke up the next day, and I felt incredible. And I was like, I feel like I've been on vacation for about a month. I feel relaxed. I feel refreshed. And I looked at my phone, and there was my friend had said, oh, I did your energy healing for you. Here's the video of it. And like the video, never mind the physical experience, all the things you're saying. Jon, you're sitting there in meetings and you're just absorbing all this negativity from people, and you're not standing up for yourself. And I could feel it in my chest up until then. Like I could only clear this like cloud of, I describe it as like, you know, negative energy. It just like felt horrible on me all the time. I could only clear it with things like holidays. That's the only way I could really see that you could do it. And so I was so fascinated. It's like, for me, that experience was so tangible and real that it made me really curious about, well, maybe I should start learning more about this and maybe learn how to do it myself. And that's what I started practicing. I just learned on the job.
It takes a lot of courage, a lot of cojones for both of you. Like, you know, it's easy to be, in position when we talk about how successful in the business, how successful with the money, all these things. But one thing is, I'm not a good meditation. Even today, I'm trying to learn, because every time I close my eyes, it's always like, it's always some disaster happening. I say, I can't do this. So I take a different approach. So in the morning, I say in my bed, I say, today's going to be a good day. Today's going to be a great day. And from other room, my son says, how do you know you're psychic? I say, I choose to believe so. He's like, he's a medical professional. He studied medicine. He believes, in different ways. So we have this argument. I know that we are, they call the old souls, So like in the process of my life problems, which I created so much, I learned a lot about cosmic, debts, about all these things. And it was hard to swallow. But I know what Natasha said. I just wrote this down. When you're ready, you're going to find the help, proper help. Because there's a moment when the doctors says, there's nothing wrong with you physically. It's something's here and needs to be approached in different ways. And I didn't met one doctor who did accept my son, future, still not, but he's going to be one day, who never told me, don't do it, alternatives, because they're helping. Instead of this, they encourage meditation, fresh air, positive thinking and everything else. So, Natasha, before we start winding down, I'd like to ask you from your aspect, what do you do? What is this Akashi Records, and how do you help the people? What people can expect from you? What services you offering through your enterprise?
Okay, thank you very much for that opportunity. So the Akashic Records is really, I suppose, the matrix, if you think of it from that perspective.
Okay.
And it really is the fabric that creates all things. When I connect into the Akashic Records, in a session, I use the person's name, which gives me their vibrational frequency. And what happens is I go into a meditative state. I say a mantra that puts me into a meditative state. And what happens is it gives me what I believe, or consciously, or the construct of accessing that person's soul's blueprint, whether it's them or their business. And in that, the information that it gives me is the why people are going through what they're going through. It shows the interconnectedness in contracts, deals, spiritual contracts, deals, and agreements that they're working through, the themes in their life that they're wanting to experience. And when it comes to future probabilities, all probabilities exist in that. But what I can do is I feel into each probability, each opportunity that they're being faced with, and it gives me the background information that I then portray that helps them to make their decisions moving forward. Whether it's a project, whether it's a person, whether it's something personally that they're going through, connection with their parents, their teacher, whatever it may be, all that information is revealed. And then what I like to do is I then clear what's not spiritually not working, allow for that healing, because sometimes just knowing the why becomes quite healing, right?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Knowing sometimes connected into a past lifetime, in a past lifetime your husband was actually your father, and in this lifetime he's trying to change that, but it still ends up being the same thing. There's still that protectiveness, there's still that care, but from that perspective, in this lifetime you're choosing a different theme to work together in a different way, or vice versa. It's just an example. And then I do a clearing and a healing, and we activate the highest potential timelines for that person to step into that. But there's that empowerment of kind of like really having the knowledge to move forward with in life. And that's from that Akashic perspective.
That's interesting. Jon, same for you. Okay, so Natasha, she's doing that type of healing. And I said, guys, you following me now for many years, and you know my story and my life. And as I say, I'm the fact person. So like I will never suggest to do something if I don't know how people will conduct themselves. So like, there's a difference between Natasha and Jon and other people maybe in public. Jon and Natasha not just experience in personal life, but they're doing this for the living. And that's what it makes them professionals. And that's the reason why you should go there. Those guys who talk about theories and, just move on the side, Natasha and Jon. But before we move with more questions, Jon, what do you do and how do you help people to your spiritual work?
Thank you. Yeah, it's quite a broad range. So I offer like mindfulness meditation. So I do that in companies and in also like one-to-one practices, and really helping people get started. And when you have that noisy mind, like settling it down and teaching you how to build a practice that feels right for you, because like, spoiler alert, we all have noisy minds. We're all human.
Absolutely.
And it's a journey for everyone. It's a unique journey. I also offer, so I just qualified as a clinical reflexologist. So this is foot massage that connects with all the reflexes and the nervous system throughout your body. And in fact, I was just giving Natasha a treatment yesterday. And what it does is it really helps you relax and release energy from all the different physical parts of you. So it's probably the most hands-on work that I do.
Yes.
And it's also a way of me, I also offer blended services, which I'll explain in a moment. The thing that I've been doing the most for many years now has been what I describe as quantum healing, but it's like a wrapper for a concept of many things that I've learned on the job. And it includes...
Okay.
It includes in a session, it's about an hour and a half, I'll go into a meditation state, and I'll call in for my client the highest aspects of themselves. And I also invite in their spirit guides. Now, you don't need to believe in those, but whether they feel real or not, it's a way of getting higher guidance. And then I'll do whatever is needed for the client. So they'll come often with, as we mentioned, stress and anxiety. It might be they're trying to break through or deepen their practice or change their life, like take that big leap. And so I'll do things like visit their past lives where they have, like with their client, to understand like what was the traumas, the patterns that happened then that are affecting them often physically now. And it can be aches and pains and mental blockages and difficulty speaking your truth. And then I also help them through energy healing. So this is not dissimilar to, you hear things like Reiki healing, like that thing I mentioned I'd experienced myself. And I scan through people's, and I can do this on the other side of the world or, face to face, which is really cool. And I can scan through and see where the problems are and help remove blocked energy and also bring in healing energy. And as Natasha mentioned, Natasha is the Akashic Records expert. I've witnessed her work firsthand. I also do some Akashic Records work and also helping people activate, like step into that highest timeline, often visit that version of themselves. Like if you could visit the future Mario and say, hey Mario, what are you doing? Who are you with? How did you get here? Give me your secrets. We do that, and it's a really powerful way of taking people on that journey together.
Let me press the button stop now, just a second before you see my secrets. Look, the thing is, I will support you 100% in what you're saying, because I experienced this in my own life, in my own problems, which I need to sort it out, and I created most of my problems. But what I didn't know, as Natasha says, people say the karma this, karma that, and I was making fun of I was making fun of everything because I knew everything. I'm the guy who knows everything. And somehow the cupola of the life, it just crushes on you. And then you need to start looking for the different patterns in your life to help yourself. It's a hard work, but you can't do this on your own. You need the people like Natasha and Jon. So guys, how the people can find you, where they can find you, how they can contact you. And, I'm going to put the comment section below, guys, the websites and contact details. But Natasha and Jon, how the people can find you and seek for assistance of yours?
So my business name is Raising the Vibes, so as in raising the vibration, and that came to me. So everything is really Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I do a lot of meditations especially with the energies that are happening, and I also guide people into their own Akashic records. There's a lot of meditations, there's a lot of Reiki healings as well in there that I did, especially to support during the pandemic, just to help in releasing all the toxins and everything that we were putting in our body. So Raising the Vibes is me.
Jon?
Fabulous. You can visit my website, jonbinnie.com. And I also, you can see me most active on YouTube. I post daily songs and meditations on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. You'll see me on LinkedIn. And every Monday and Thursday, I'm also live for a couple of hours, doing live healings for people for about 10 minutes. And they're free or donation based. And it's really to help like both give back and also help lead by example, like just do the things we're talking about.
Well, guys, before we just wind up, I had a few short questions. I want to fire them up, just answer to me. So our viewers and audience, I try to combine it very well, but let's go start first with the fear. If someone is afraid of anything in their life, Natasha or Jon, what they should do? How they should deal with the fear?
Face it. See it as a door and walk through it and know that the fear on the other side of that door is less than the fear you're experiencing right now.
Okay, Natasha?
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Okay. How much food plays a role in our health overall?
Huge. What we breathe, what we eat is our makeup.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's your favorite food, Jon?
No, nuts.
Nuts? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, look, we know that the time, and I always say that time and health are two most valuable commodities in life we have. Time we can return, and without health, we can't realize dreams. What are you suggesting to people should do to keep themselves healthy? What type of exercises, Natasha, would you suggest anybody to do on daily basis, or you, Jon, apart of meditation?
I like taking a lot of walks. I'm a walker, so I connect into nature all the time. So I connect into the trees, connecting to the forest or the sea, whatever it may be. Walking in nature gets the energy flowing within us, and then dancing. Do what brings you joy. So I enjoy that. So anything that raises your vibrational frequency, anything that you enjoy, whether it's singing, whether it's dancing, whatever that is important to raise your vibrational frequency.
Jon, your
so
music,
those are the two things I do.
Thank you, Natasha. Jon, quickly, your music, it's there available on YouTube, right? So, how important is to listen to music for the people?
It's very important.
And what music would you suggest people should listen? Obviously, it's not just the rap, all the
not just Jon Binnie.
Heavy.
There are many songs.
Okay, so what's your songs about? Tell us about your songs. What's your songs about? If the people go on your Jon Binnie YouTube channel, what songs they can expect?
So when I started writing every day back in 2017, my mission, and it's still true today, is raising people's vibrations. So every song I create, every word, every note has that intention encoded around it, which is to help uplift you. Even all my sad, angry songs, like that's it's about releasing those energies. And yes, like what you consume, so you deserve the very best. You deserve the best food, the best things that you look at on your phone, the walks you do, the time with your family, your self-love with yourself. And so if you really want to, consume the best and output the best of you, then music's a fantastic way of connecting with that, both the dancing with it, the listening to it and relaxing with it. It affects physically the vibration of our water, the structure and molecular structure of us. We're almost, most of us are made of almost all water. And there's this huge part of us that when we consume these frequencies, it helps connect us with our bodies, connect us with our hearts. And remember, I'm human and I can be happy. I can find my joy again.
70% of human body is water. And two of you guys, you're spot on. I just want to say before we wind up one thing on behalf of every living human being on this planet. I'd like to say thank you for making this world a better place. I know because I was on the other side of the spear, and it's easy to destroy, easy to make the people sad, upset, bring the sadness, sorrow. But I'd like to say thank you for making this world a better place, for helping every soul on this planet who seeks the help. Guys, my guests today on Live the Battlefield, Natasha and Jon, I'm going to put in the comment section their contact details. Feel free to contact them. And as I say, I'm a big advocate of healing, big advocate of spirituality. You're going to find your taste with both Natasha and Jon. But as I want to say thank you, both of you, not just being my guest today, but thank you for making this world a better place. Thank you for bringing the light. So thank you for being my guest tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing your light to the world as well.
Likewise.
Thank you, guys.